listening to a download from theoutdoorstation.co.uk. Number 506.
Hello and welcome back to the Outdoors Station, the longest running producers of outdoors podcasts for the self-powered traveller, backpacker, adventurer and general outdoors lover. Today is December the 25th, 2019. Yes, Christmas Day, and I'm currently out on the Malvern Hills, local to me, with Rose and Pip the dog for our pre-lunch, late lunch, long several hour walk. Get that appetite built. I thought it was an opportunity to do a quick podcast to wish all our listeners a very happy Christmas or holiday season, and hope that we all have a happy, healthy and balanced 2020. It's a lovely sound, that, isn't it, walking past the stream. Today what I thought we'd do is quickly have a run through over the year's podcasts, which I've undertaken. 27 in all, 28 including this one, which hasn't been a bad run considering it was a bit of a late start this year due to various issues, mainly the progress of the studio build, which I've mentioned before, and it's still ongoing, but we are slowly getting there. And as it's a solo project, these things take time. I know Rose is going to say something.
Well, I think it's mostly a solo project, but I have done a lot of painting, holding, ladder climbing, handing things, cleaning.
Teamwork.
Carrying plasterboard. How many sheets of plasterboard do we have to carry it?
Oh,
not
ridiculous.
to mention the gables.
Yeah, that was something else, wasn't it? 80 kilos each, 21 of them. So, starting in March, I visited the NEC and the photography show. Had a good handful of interviews there, but one of the most interesting and perhaps pertinent to outdoors people was the interview with the Phantom Flight School relating to the use of drones and obviously the changes in the law which I believe have now come into place. I haven't actually succumbed to buying a drone just yet, but it's always there at the back of my mind. In April, I followed this up with, recycled a podcast from Tommy Outdoors in Ireland, where he recorded a speech by John Gibbons, who's a powerful and eloquent and well-informed environmentalist regarding climate-related issues, which was interesting but frightening in equal measures. And again, if that's something that interests you, do have a check back on that one. That was number 480, or go to his website thinkorswim.ie. The author and micro adventurist Alistair Humphreys was 481, and that was in May, where he was generally plugging his book, or his new book, My Midsummer Morning, which featured some interesting stories and some terrible violin playing as he made his way through Spain. But I see now Alistair's started his own podcast too. He was so impressed with the podcast he did with us that he started his own. So look him up on iTunes, but I think you'll find the Living Adventurously podcast of interest. Then we had a little splurge of Iceland, really. The first dab of that was with Dermot Cosgrove and 482, and that was in June when he was about to set off, pulling a trekking cart some 630 kilometres north to south across Iceland. And he went into great details regarding his epic plans and his expectations. By the way, if you can hear heavy breathing, that's not Rose, that's the dog who's pulling her lead at the moment. Expectations of Iceland and what he was looking forward to, and we were going to speak again when he returned and completed his journey, but more of that in a moment. Then I had Rowan Smith from Australia contact me, who is one of a handful of specialist trainers who service the outdoor hiking community, and his niche is really helping people prepare themselves for things like Kilimanjaro and such like. Of course, being based in Australia, they haven't exactly got the same sort of surroundings that we're lucky enough to have here to work on. But he was saying that a lot of his clients are international clients. So something worth considering if you feel like doing a couch to 10k or a couch to a long distance hike challenge this year. Then we went down to the outdoor trade show, or went up to it rather. It was in Manchester. There was a few interesting conversations there, some facts I picked up, some new products which were looking of interest. The one thing I think that came out of that for me was actually the shock that there's actually no battery recycling plant in the UK. So all these batteries that we use for our outdoor adventures and kit and so on, and faithfully put into the recycling buckets in the supermarkets, actually have to be shipped overseas to go to a recycling plant. Apparently that is being remedied currently. I don't know how soon that will be coming online, as it were, but that was the main shock. The other thing was the Project Hydrogen, which was Vango's new range of super light tents. It was very interesting to see the design. My immediate thoughts and concern was the ventilation was exceedingly limited. So it'll be interesting to see if people find them functioning as well as they hoped in our typical UK European weather. The Summit to Eat conversation was also food for thought. See what I did there? And they gave us some food pouches which I subsequently ate when I was in Scotland, and they were exceedingly tasty. So fair play to Summit to Eat. I think Summit to Eat and Firepot are the two brands that people rave about most of all at the moment as regards volume and taste. Well, moving to July, it was nice to meet up with Ellie Bishop from Two Outdoors and Beyond, who talked quite openly and quite humorously about the benefits of mental health and the outdoors generally, being in the outdoors and various activities, and some of the personal struggles she's been through. A lot of people did comment on that particular podcast related to the benefits of the outdoors and getting balance in your life.
Yeah, I find it really interesting. There was a few people that you spoke to this year as mental health issues have been sort of more to the fore this year anyway. But with her, and there was a couple of other people, spending 10 minutes outdoors or an hour outdoors, and Abby Barnes as well had a lot to say on mental health. Whoops, slippy here. And I think that's really relevant, and we need to take the time. Certainly in 2020, I get out every day anyway with the dog, but lots of people don't take the time to be outdoors and don't know what the elements are doing, or the changes in the air that are around them, even if it's just corner of a park or a hedgerow, or noticing the changes each day. It just does your soul good.
Shortly after I spoke to Ellie, I then spoke to Dermot once again, who had returned earlier than planned from Iceland, having suffered some terrible foot problems following his first couple of days in Iceland. And he was obviously very disappointed because he was raising money for charity on the actual trip itself, and he'd allocated holiday time to undertake this, as well as obviously the amount of hours, time, money and effort that had gone into preparing for it. So our sympathies were with him, but he was very open, very honest about how things can go wrong, and you've just got to make a decision to turn back or terminate your own adventure if circumstances dictate it. On the bright side, I do know that he's planning to do it once again in 2020, so our wishes are with him, and hopefully we'll catch up with him following a successful crossing this time. Later in August, on 487, I spoke to Beth Wicks, who is taking a few years to walk around the coast of the UK, again in aid of charities, 3 charities in fact: Lowland Search and Rescue, the RNLI, and Mountain Rescue England and Wales. Beth said she was not a long distance hiker, so it really was quite a personal challenge for her, and she's actually sold off and rented out her house, I believe, and set off, and she's still walking now somewhere, I understand, towards the south coast. I've sort of lost contact with her after the summer, but she was going well, and she'd gone up past Wales, up to the Scottish borders, across before she started to head down. But of course, this weather that we've had since October, which has been plagued the whole country, this wet, terrible weather, has really given her grief as well. So I think she's had to change her plans and her routes accordingly. Another person doing interesting, exciting stuff, and great fun to talk to, is Katie Tunn, who lives up on the Isle of Skye. Katie, you might remember we spoke to regarding her 40 days and 40 nights solo camping experience she did on a remote island, uninhabited island off the west coast of Scotland last year. If you haven't listened to that, again, please do go and listen, number 476. But on this one, 488, Katie talks about how she is going through all the islands that she can find and trying to encapsulate 24 hours and overnight on them to get the character of the island and some of the experiences. And she shared with us the few islands that she'd done so far, and certainly since speaking to her I noticed on her social media that she's actually done quite a few more. So again, have a listen to Katie, look her up, follow her up, etc, etc. Following on from 488, I turned it into a two-parter, 489 and 490. Jenny Davis, or Jenny Wordsworth as she is now, her married name, and she had attempted at the beginning of 2019, unsupported and unassisted, across the Antarctic to the South Pole, but unfortunately, due to a medical condition which came out of nowhere, she had been airlifted and it had to be terminated. Well, she has set out again since that interview, and today, Christmas Day, she's currently on day 28 and going like a trooper by all accounts. I believe she's had a few tough days regards the weather, but her spirits and strength and motivation is at 100%. But what's probably the most interesting at the moment, and do think about these people, because it is Christmas and we're all sort of sitting back and relaxing and, you know, putting your feet up and reflecting on the year, etc, etc, that Jenny's actually one of 5 women currently doing exactly the same thing. They're all doing, I think, slightly different routes or slightly different challenges, but they're all crossing the Antarctic, heading for the South Pole, and they're all being exceedingly supportive of each other. I call them like the Ice Maidens or the Ice Girls. I haven't quite worked out which one hangs better, but there's 5 of them: Jenny, Molly Hughes, Lucy Reynolds, Wendy Searle and Anja Blacher, who I believe is German, and I'm going to put all the links to them in the show notes, so if you find that of interesting to see how these women are approaching and proving just how tough and gutsy they are, while you're tucking into your 3rd or 4th pile of leftover from Sunday lunch and the turkey and all the hams and the beef, and I'm starting to get hungry now. Just think about them really toughing it out for Christmas to achieve their goals. So fair play to them, 100% respect, and I'm really hoping to speak to Jenny, if not some of the others as well, at some stage when they return from their successful attempt. But going back to Iceland, in August I also spoke to Katie Jane Endurance, somebody I'd come across via social media, who had done the opposite almost to Dermot's plan, a slightly different route, but this time from south to north across Iceland. And the podcast itself was a 30-minute excerpt from a much longer video interview that I did with her. And do by all means go to the Outdoor Station website or look us up on YouTube, and you'll see many of the scenes and video clips of the route that she took, some of the landscape she had to cross, and her approach, which in all honesty was the complete opposite to Dermot's approach. Dermot is an ex-military individual, and he was really approaching it from an expedition basis, whereas Katie's approach was more, I would relate to, adventure racing. She hit it very fast, very light, minimal equipment, and seemed to have a wonderful time. She was well prepared in a few areas that I hadn't considered, and again it's worth having a listen to that podcast, number 491, or checking out the video if you feel like putting your feet up and you've got a new smart TV. Check out the outdoor station, get the link to the video, and have a look at it on YouTube and enjoy it in all its spectacular colour.
Podcasting around the world. It's all about getting out and having much more fun.
This is the Outdoor Station.
In 2018, you may remember I spoke to an Irish couple, Carl and Ellie, podcast number 477, who were undertaking all 42 trails in the Republic of Ireland, some total of 4,100 kilometres. When I spoke to them, they had just completed the final trail, the Wicklow Way, and we reflected on the trails in Ireland, what it was like to do long distance trails, some of the distances, and how it had led to them creating guides and maps which are all free to download from their website. So again, look up that podcast on the Outdoor Station and you'll see the links to them. And perhaps, like me, you'd be tempted to do a few of the trails in Ireland. Sounds like a fantastic country to enjoy. Rose referred to Zoe Holmes earlier on from Splod's Blogs, who had this very simple idea to spend an hour outside to tune out and zone in to what's going on around you in the world and tune out of all your everyday problems. And that was a lovely conversation over something that was really so simple. But as Rose quite rightly points out, what a difference it makes to get out and focus on something completely different from all the other woes might be going on in your life. Shortly after speaking to Zoe in September, I spoke to Emma Frampton regarding the Adventure Queens, an organisation, a non-for-profit community specifically set up by her and Anna McNuff to delicately smash down the barriers that prevent women from heading off on adventures. And it sounds like it's proving to be more and more successful. Obviously a women-only group where they can help each other and support each other, build confidence without perhaps intrusion or confusion that us guys tend to create for them. I don't know what on earth they're hinting at. But it sounded like really good, and I've got friends who have done various events with the Adventure Queens. So once again, look them up on our site and the links will take you straight to theirs, and perhaps suggest it to women in your life that would like to build their confidence with other women. Roman Ackel, our friend and European correspondent in Germany, visited ISPO, which was now the host for the new European Outdoor Trade Fair, which has moved from Friedrichshafen. And once again, the podcast was an audio excerpt from a full video where we discuss lots of equipment and various things that caught his eye. And if you wish to see the details, once again, pop to the Outdoor Station website and have a look at the video, which is on YouTube as well. It's been a busy year, and it's been good to hear there's lots of people, many people now, producing podcasts of all different ilks. But as regards the outdoors niche, it's hard, I've found, to find content which is well recorded, intelligent, and extremely informative as well. And I was lucky to get in contact with Liv Bolton from the Outdoors Fix and Ben Shepherd from Why in the World, plus a name of somebody that I'd spoken to several times before, Andrew White from Walks Around Britain. 3 excellent podcasts, and certainly content that I feel, if you've enjoyed the content from the Outdoor Station, you will really enjoy their content too. So once again, check out the website, the links are all there. I was lucky enough, well, lucky's a dubious word, isn't it? I was lucky enough to be invited by Lee and Tony to go up to the Cairngorms in October, and the experience of that trip formed the content of 2 podcasts, 497 and 498, which was completely scuppered by Storm Lorenzo. And really, I suppose that was the start of this bad weather that we've had in the UK for 3 months now. I'm so surprised here today on the Malvern Hills. We have got blue skies, it's gloriously sunny, I'm staring across to the Vale of Evesham, where I can still see water lying on the floodplain from the River Severn, staring across to Breedon Hill, and it's absolutely glorious. It's so quiet, as you can hear. Whereas literally up until yesterday, it's been pouring with rain, and the ground is just sodden, as it is anywhere in the UK. So we had the start of it in the Cairngorms, and you might want to have a listen to some of the experiences that we had up there, but it was mainly camping in pouring rain. Getting close to the 500 celebration, the one before was with Steve Everson, who started a cooperative called Nearly Wild, where he's contacted a lot of places which offer extremely basic camping facilities, such as basically water, possibly a toilet, and wide open spaces, where people who would like to try wild camping but have always been very nervous about where to go and not intrude on private land and all the other legalities that may go with it. A very useful website. Yes, there's a small cost involved, but for that cost at least you have the confidence that everything you're doing is within legal boundaries, so that would make the wild camping experience much more realistic. But there's plenty of places on the website. You need to join to see them, but I'm told that everybody that has been has thoroughly enjoyed the remote wildness and certainly the experience without putting themselves at risk for the first time on a hill somewhere where they really shouldn't be. Of course, number 500 came and went. 14 years of podcasting to get there. 500 podcasts under my belt, and I'm steaming ahead into 2020, really wanting to make the most of the history that I've got and the support that we've had from the listeners. Shortly after, in November, on podcast number 501, I spoke to Christine Thea, who is the mother of Thomas Thea, and he died, sadly, just after his 18th birthday. And they've started a charity raising funds to build a lodge, the Whitehall Education Centre, in the heart of the Peak District in Derbyshire. And they're doing that through the usual sort of charity activities, but also actually they've opened a charity shop which specialises in outdoor sports gear, etc., etc. And apparently it's doing really, really well. So if you have gear that's now redundant from Christmas and you want it to go to a positive charity, a positive place where other people will still get the benefits of the equipment, and also it's the money that's raised is going towards a valuable charity, then do consider that. And once again, check out the website, all the details are there. The very popular Abby Barnes was a guest in November, and she set herself the task and recording at a very honest level all 16 of the UK national trails, describing the rich experience each one offers, accompanied by a very eloquent explanation, a mixture of history and natural environment, which goes to make each one special. Abby is well known as a passionate long-distance hiker who has made it her mission to document through film how she overcomes her own personal struggles with mental health by challenging herself to move outside of her comfort zone, and in doing so hopes to encourage others to join her to facing up to their fears and grow to be the best versions of themselves. But it was a lovely chat. Once again, Abby very open and honest. We talked about the practicalities of the trips that she does, the finances involved, and the challenges that she has. And I think if you're a fan or have heard of her or seen her films anywhere on social media, it'd be well worth having a listening to that podcast. Very interesting, open and enjoyable conversation. It's no secret that I've always supported UK cottage manufacturers. I think it's something that we should do more of if possible. And so it was a pleasure to talk to Tom Gale from Atom Packs. And he is, as far as I know, and certainly nobody has contradicted me otherwise, he's the only lightweight, bespoke, custom-made pack manufacturer in the UK who makes gorgeous looking packs for the lightweight hiker, all designed by him And he has shed loads of hiking experience as well, so it's not as if it's purely a commercial operation without experience. Again, I think you'll find that an interesting podcast if you haven't heard it, but more still, I think if you're like me, you'll find the packs really quite sexy. So if you're in the market for a new pack in the new year, then do check them out. Later in December I spoke to Alice Bowers, which was a fascinating interview with someone who's chosen a different path, which requires a bit of sacrifice and bravery to live life with more adventure to see where the journey takes her. And throughout the conversation we talked about life decisions, living for today, plus the financial challenges and practicalities of travel. In the conversation you'll hear some of the details about the trip she's done, the 13 months she spent cycling the length of Australia and New Zealand and Indonesia to Nepal. A journey that opened her eyes on how kind people can be and how lucky we are to call this planet our home, but also the devastating effects that humans are having on the environment. She was actually a geography teacher, so that was something that really struck home to her. So the final podcast before this one was with Tim Moss from The Next Challenge. Again, if you're ever thinking of doing a challenge or doing something that's taking you out of your comfort zone, or you have friends who are considering to do the same thing, but they're struggling financially to have some money in the pot, as it were, to enable them to achieve their goal, then Tim is paid the whole experience, the whole outdoor adventure experience forward. And he's actually organised a grant, which is an annual bursary for adventurers. He started it back in 2015, and he's funded over 50 different adventures. So the money comes from his website, small crowd-funded donations, and donations from other adventurers as well. And it really does help people kickstart their outdoor life and build confidence that they can afford to do something. But again, all the fine details are on our website and on his website as well. So again, if you're a bit bored over Christmas, over the New Year break, and you know people that say, oh, I wish I could do so and so, but I can't find the money or struggling for a way to get going, then check it out. You'll be surprised who else is on that list.
I find it really interesting this year. You seem to have interviewed so many amazing women out doing things, and I'm sure there've always been women out there doing stuff before, but this year it seems as if we're shouting it more, and there's a lot more women out there being positive and gutsy and just experiencing life to the full.
Indeed, and all power to them. I'm sure guys are doing the same thing as well, but the women seem to be making a better job of the PR.
Social media, yes.
Yes, social media. Anyway, folks, thanks once again for downloading the podcasts this year. I hope to have a steady stream, if at all possible, one a week. That's my sort of challenge for next year. And I'll try and take that 27, 28 podcasts and double it, if at all possible, and keep everybody entertained. If you can do anything for me, that would be really to help spread the message. Social media, via friends, outdoor groups, whatever it may be, and links to any of the podcasts that other people might find interesting.
Yeah, I mean, it does take you probably 2 days a week to do interview and edit and put all the links up and all the rest of it out of your week. So it's a big commitment on your part.
Yes it is, but I also enjoy doing it, and it's also nice to get the feedback as well, to know that other people have enjoyed it as well. So until 2020, folks, you take care out there, have a good holiday break, enjoy the new year, and we will be back talking to some very interesting people that are already in the can, ready to launch a fantastic series of podcasts in January.
Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas, and bye for now.
Thank you for listening to this podcast. To hear or see more from our extensive free library, please visit theoutdoorstation.co.uk.